Welcome to Alma Matters, our university podcast designed to bring academic leaders and experts from all over the world to discuss their expertise and to bring their real-life wisdom into the studio with us. I'm thrilled to welcome Professor Adrian Johnson today, educator, entrepreneur, and founder, who's going to discuss latest topics relevant to our students and everyone in the Newton family. Your work and teaching at INSEAD and your co-founding of Kinect, I want to talk to you today about AI and its intersection with education. What problem were you trying to solve with Kinect, and why did you think AI was so important in education?
So thank you very much, Anya, and thank you for the welcome here to Newton University. It's a real pleasure. The problem that we're trying to solve is that I think we're all aware that really good quality education currently is very high touch. Mm-hmm. And it's quite expensive. So ideally, for the perfect situation for a student is to be in a small learning group, to have a lot of contact with the professor, the tutor, the mentor, the teacher, to be able to ask questions to that professor, mentor, teacher, and being able to have these interactive, high-touch sessions. Now, unfortunately, that is expensive. And also is hard to scale. So that's the problem we're trying to solve. There are a lot of people out there who don't have access to this great high quality education. And it might not just be financial, it might be geographical, there might be restrictions with visas and just the location, the geography they're in, they don't have access. And then there's also the financial aspect as well. So the traditional solution, which has worked quite well over the last decade, I'd say, and particularly accelerated with the pandemic, is the sort of the traditional online education, which is a great solution that solves the problem to a certain extent. But I think what we found during the pandemic, where we all got involved in delivering on traditional online education, is that, maybe it lacked some of the engagement, especially now 5 years after the pandemic or 4 years after the pandemic. People are saying, okay, we don't necessarily want to do that sort of sit in front of a computer, watching videos and then doing a multiple choice. So we think that with AI, one has the opportunity to sort of have our cake and eat it. We can bring back some of, ironically, through the AI, we can bring back some of that human high-touch content using virtual professors, virtual teachers, virtual mentors and tutors. And so we can make the content more engaging and also more tailored both to the institution and to the learner.
Mm-hmm. So it's about accessibility, but as well as bringing back the kind of experiential learning and the personal approach in the educational experiences, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's both of those things. And we can do some things, I'm not arguing that a virtual professor is better than a real professor. I would rather spend an hour with a real professor than with an AI-generated professor. However, we can do some things beyond what even a human being can do, in that, for instance, these virtual tutors have perfect memory. So if you're on a learning journey with a virtual tutor that's going over several months, the virtual tutor can remember everything you said 3 months ago perfectly. Okay. And with all the best will in the world, a human being would struggle with that. Also, the AI is able to dynamically adapt the content to the particular learner's interests or the level of detail they want to go into, which is also maybe a little bit difficult for a human to do, and definitely difficult to do at scale.
Sure. I'm sure you know what I'm going to ask you now. We're both educators as well as everything else that we do. What would you say to the professors who are worried that AI is just going to replace them?
So I would say, au contraire, I would say actually the AI could scale them. So some of the professors we're working with have seen this as an opportunity because they're limited. The time of a professor is limited. Their live time, you can only there are only so many hours in a day. So some of the professors we're working for are seeing it, the glass half full rather than a half empty. They're seeing this as a way that they can actually extend their reach. We're working with one professor right now who's quite a leader in his field, and there's only a limited number of people every year who can benefit from his learning. So we're able to extend the reach. So I'd say it's the opposite. Those who want to see the glass half full would see it as a positive thing, extending rather than them losing their jobs. Actually, it really extends what they can do,
helping them to do their job in a more interactive way and actually reach more students through that method as well. What about if we think a little bit more generally? What would you say? No one knows, of course, but we already see the impact that AI is having on the economy. We have our students asking us what jobs will be safe in the future, what they should focus on, etc. What would you say to them?
Well, I would say AI is for better or for worse here to stay, and so it's something we're going to have to learn to use. And again, I think those students who can see the positive aspect, it can actually augment the work they do and actually make their work and their lives better and make them more productive in the workplace. I think when I'm old enough to be around when Lotus 1-2-3, the first spreadsheet came out. It wasn't Excel. It was Lotus 1-2-3. And, when spreadsheets came, there was a bit of resistance as well. People were like, well, I'm an accountant and am I going to be now made redundant because of this spreadsheet thing? And I think we'd all agree that, the spreadsheet is a really an essential tool for most managers today. And it's actually helped us be better at our jobs. And I see AI the same way. It's a tool. And it's a tool that is being brought into every single company today. And like it or not, we will have to use it. But if we, again, look positively at it, we can use it to make our jobs and lives better.
I think it's exactly right. And if anything, if any jobs are going to be replaced or anyone is going to have a hard time finding a role in the labor market, it's those who don't use AI. We won't be replaced by AI, but we might be replaced by people who use it better than we do, right?
Exactly. That is exactly right. And in terms of the jobs that are under threat, I think the big difference in this industrial revolution, if we can call it that, is in the past and even the digitization of the 80s and 90s, many companies, particularly manufacturing companies, and even before that in the 70s, it started in automotive. A lot of the people whose jobs were threatened were people on the factory floor, so doing blue collar jobs. I think what's really different this time is that it's white collar jobs that are threatened. So if we look at the legal profession, again, I think many lawyers will be able to benefit from this because they can be more productive and actually do more. But it's true that if we look at small and medium-sized businesses now on the legal front, many of them are already using, whereas in the past they would phone up their lawyer for a contract or a change to the contract, they're now able to do that with AI. So you could say that the revenue model of legal firms might be under threat, but again, I think those legal firms that embrace it and start to use it could actually be more have a better offering and actually augment what they do rather than have their companies destroyed.
Well, we've been talking about the benefits of AI as well as how we might approach it, how we might adapt to it, deal with it. What do you think about regulation? The EU is leading with the AI Act right now. In the US and in China, we know the regulations are much more lax. We see introduction of not just AI tools for the lecturers and the teachers, but children at quite young ages using AI in schools. What do you think the consequences of those differences might be? And in general, where do you stand on regulating AI?
That's a great question. Anya, and I think my answer might surprise you. I'm very happy, even though I'm an AI entrepreneur, I'm very happy that the EU is regulating AI. My AI business is in the education sector, and I think regulation is absolutely essential. And I'm really happy that the government is helping me make a better product that is safe and has the right boundaries for education, because I think that's really important. So I think the fact that China and the US might be more lax and be, a little bit looser in their requirements, I don't think that is a good thing. And I'm happy and very pleased to be in the European Union and have these governments thinking about how we can make this safer, because I think that will help me and my colleagues and competitors in our ecosystem be a better one with better products and services. So actually, I think it's great. I think it's really good.
And I suppose it also depends how the regulation actually takes place to make sure we can use the benefits of AI. On the topic of introducing AI in schools, obviously we are using it at the university level as well, but we're dealing with more or less adults here in the classrooms. I'm wondering, what's your opinion about introducing AI from very young ages in elementary and secondary schools, from the point of the view of, making sure children are developing cognitive skills, critical thinking, ability to, think deeply. Do you think introduction of AI is going to affect this? And perhaps how should we approach it?
Again, a very good question, and obviously one of great concern to parents, teachers. On the one hand, there's a fear, especially when Gen AI first emerged at the end of 2022, that on the teaching side, that the students will cheat and the kids will just use ChatGPT at the time, and there are other AI models, of course, available. And I think there is a fear right now, as it's getting a little bit more mature. It's funny to think that it's been less than 3 years, but we're seeing, kids resorting to checking with an AI model the answer rather than thinking themselves. So I think there is this danger, a little bit of a danger that kids might get lazy and just use the AI for all answers. But on the other hand, I think in our institutions and even the way we are parents, we can actually embrace AI and use it to help our children develop their cognitive skills. We work with a high school in developing AI, using AI tools, using our platform Connect to develop learning modules for children. So these are high school kids, but they're still teenagers, and they're using it in a really clever way to actually challenge the student. So we can design learning modules that use the AI to actually specifically help the children be better at critical thinking and decision making. So again, turning it on its head, we can actually embrace it and create the tools that will help our kids be better at critical thinking and decision making. And coming back to an earlier question in terms of preparation for life, when you're a teenager, I think these kids, we have this first generation of children who their first jobs will be very AI driven. And of course, it's very important for our children to have the skills to understand the capabilities of the AI, the limitations. And when they start work, they'll be using AI. So it's almost it's essential that we actually teach them about AI rather than keeping them away from it, let's say.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I think it's incredibly important for us as universities as well to set up the ways to encourage our students to use AI, but to teach them how to use it cleverly, efficiently, and ethically as well. And make sure there is space for them to learn the kind of self-efficacy skills that they're going to need, as well as the AI skills. So if you had to give us one recommendation, one guideline for universities to use on AI, what would that be?
So the guideline would be leverage what you have. I think the great power of your university, of our educational institutions, is we have these very clever people who've spent years doing research, who've developed content, have pedagogical methods. So all of this knowledge is fantastic if we can combine it with the AI. So I think the AI on its own, the general large language models, they're very generic. But I think the real power that your university has and our educational institutions is that we have all of this very specialist knowledge, these decades of research with each professor. I think we can embrace that. We can take that as an asset and make it even better using the AI. So that would be my recommendation. Look at what you have. Do an audit on what your intellectual assets are, your intellectual property, and then that combined with AI is a fantastic value proposition.
Definitely. And slightly different topic, I suppose. We've just launched a new program, Economics and Sustainable Management. And meeting sustainability standards is really important for us in the next couple of years of strategic implementation. But I'm wondering, what do you think about the enormous energy that the developing models and the servers and everything are actually using? Can AI be sustainable?
Very good question again. And this is a dilemma and a challenge we're all faced with in those of us working deeply in the AI field. We're doing something, but especially if many of us have been, very much involved in sustainability in the past, and now suddenly we're using all this energy to train our models and use them. So one thing we're trying to do is move towards smaller, very specialist models. So you can take models, and I'm very proud to say that in Europe we have a few companies like Mistral who are moving in this direction, which is a European company. So we can take these more specialist models, which are a lot more efficient, because we don't need all the general knowledge of the whole internet to deliver a course on microeconomics, for instance. But what we do want is that particular model to be really trained on microeconomics in general, but also maybe your particular microeconomics professor who has a particular framework, methodology, or research work. So we're working right now on training these specialist models on a particular subject. They use a lot less energy, and they're basically more energy efficient and actually more effective and faster because they're focused on one thing. So that's one approach we're taking. I think also, and this is beyond the scope of what I do, but we are working quite closely with a couple of the LLM providers. One is Cohere, which is a Canadian-based company, which is a fantastic company, and they are trying to also look at ways that they can solve this problem of energy, either by using more sustainable energy, so renewable energy for their server farms and so on. So I think that's as I say, it gets a bit beyond what I'm doing, but it's an infrastructure problem as well, challenge that we have to work with the government and say, okay, what's your energy strategy in general? How can we increase the capacity of renewables? And maybe there are places where renewables could be more appropriately deployed, solar farms, wind farms, and other things. I think there's a lot of it becomes a very big sort of a more national challenge. How can we and I think the governments have to recognize that, okay, AI is coming, is here, and it's going to expand. So what's our energy policy? And I hope that the responsible governments will be looking closely at energy sources, which will be more scalable, but also more sustainable and better for our environment.
And I suppose the large language models can actually help us figure this out. in the future.
Absolutely. That's a very good point. Yeah. And hopefully, I mean, there's the some of the solutions they may come up with just given a go, like they might come up with solutions that we don't like. Well, we need fewer people.
So that's when some of the critical skills perhaps come back in. So if we go back to this idea about how much AI is actually helping us versus if we're outsourcing actually some control or actually some decision making as well away from ourselves. I'm wondering about the kind of the personal assistants that we're soon going to have, I'm sure, managing our calendars. I remember when this was last year actually, the Innovation Week here in Czechia. Someone from OpenAI was there, and already he was saying, "I've got the personal assistants and other kinds of work of 7 people now replaced by AI doing this for me." But are we not outsourcing not just the thinking and the thinking skills, but some autonomy over decision making as well to the Gen AI?
That's a good point, and I think that's going to be a challenge for each of us as individuals. You know, how much. I mean, I know that I'm really looking forward to the day that I have an AI agent that can handle my email. And I don't think, my decision when I get an email coming into my inbox, whether I file it, delete it, or respond, I mean, I'm not sure that's a kind of decision that I need to be making. I'm going to miss so much and it's going to reduce. But that kind of mundane decision making, I think AI will be brilliant, is already very good at doing that. And I hope that, we'll be mature enough to able to delegate the things that do not require, strategic decisions, but are more mundane decisions, and then it leaves me, hopefully, the space to make the big decisions using my own human brain. Having said that, I think and it's already happening, certainly in my life, where I am using the AI to help me in the same way that I would with a super assistant, a super knowledgeable human assistant. I might bounce ideas off that assistant, and I think we can still use. And so I hope that will help us make better decisions, but not lose the power of critical thinking. And in fact, in some ways, I've found just myself in my life, I've been able to actually absorb a lot more interesting content and read about interesting things because I've managed to free up some time that I would have spent maybe a day, writing a proposal, where I've been able to use the AI to help me do it more quickly, and then I can spend a little bit more time doing some interesting research into topics around the proposal and actually learning more. So I think funnily enough, the AI is making me more educated and more knowledgeable. And just an aside on that, there's a program we're involved in, which is, let's, for want of a better phrase, called AI for Oldies. And unfortunately, I'm probably qualified in that category already. But we're looking at we have an offering for people who are close to retirement or already retired, and they're saying, okay, people are living longer, and how can I use this AI to make my life better? And I can give one very personal example of that. My mother-in-law, who's an author, and she's 84 years old, and she's still writing, and we've given her access to a Kinect tutor that's helping her write her next book. And she's found that
I need that.
So actually, in her case, I mean, whether irrespective of her age, it could be useful to any author. But we're finding that there's a certain group of people who are retired who can now, the real AI can actually augment this idea of lifelong learning, basically.
And I think that's really important. But that we also strike a balance, and we help our students to learn to how to set this up, because we're already building on professional experiences in our lives when AI is coming into it. But for our students, when they're going to be growing up with it or they're using it straight away in the classroom, I think we need to guide them to actually help to make those decisions and figure out what decisions to leave to the computer, what decisions they need to make themselves. But it's true. I'm really seeing this kind of opening up for me for more strategic decisions, because the kind of decision and information overload that we all have and we had before we started using Gen AI could have been quite overwhelming sometimes. So I think it definitely helps with that. Again, if you're using it right, if you know to fact check it still, make sure the sources are correct, etc. But I see a big potential there as well. It's just about, I think, guiding our students towards this. So I'm wondering, for our students specifically, one thing is teaching them AI skills, obviously, and learning how to deal with it, what to get out of it, how to interact with it. But in terms of any other skills, what do you think our students will need most in the kind of the AI world of tomorrow? What kind of other skills will be necessary?
Yeah, really good question. And I think on the one hand, we are. I'm sort of a little bit torn. On the one hand, the AI can allow us to become more generalists, so know a lot more about a lot of things. But I think it will also help us to be specialists. So if you're a medical student, for instance, I know you don't necessarily have medical students at your school, but you may have medical students coming to do an MBA or something, and I think it will help them also dive really deeply on a particular subject. So, but to answer your question specifically, what other skills would be useful? I think it'll be good, and we're involved in a few courses right now which are teaching our business students to code. Now, it might seem a little bit of a waste of time because soon they're quite very good sort of no-code application builders and so on, where you don't actually need to know about coding. But I think as a manager in the future, an understanding of what you can do with code will be very important, even if you've got your AI actually doing the code for you. I think we're, learning Python. I would certainly recommend any management studies student to learn Python. I think there's some fun stuff you can do. You can tinker and build some pretty interesting things, especially when combined with the AI. So I would certainly, I think, a basic level of coding. And I think maybe 10 years ago, if you told an MBA student you have to learn to code in Python, they think you're completely crazy. Why would I do that? And now we have in some of the executive MBA courses, we're actually teaching them to code. So that's one thing, learning to code. And then I would say, coming back to the other skills, I think, because this AI is freeing us up in figuring out some of our time, as I was saying before, we're taking care of those mundane tasks, maybe the research that would before take 3 months in a library. With that extra time, one of the things, and it sounds kind of old school, learn some languages. Yeah. If you're a student, how beautiful it would be. You live in Prague, your students, I'm sure, already speak English, but hey, go and learn Chinese, learn Spanish if you don't speak it. And I think this is a great opportunity for actually us to actually learn more about the rest of the world. And because I think one of the important things in management today, when I started my career, and when I started my first business in 1993, I wasn't 6 years old, but my business, 80% of our customers were within 5 kilometers of our office. Today, when you start a business, you're a micro multinational almost immediately. No matter what you do. I was speaking to one of your colleagues yesterday whose son manufactures so it's not just digital products, but a manufactured product selling around the world. And so these students of yours, if they're going into entrepreneurship, and if they go into big companies, that'll definitely be the case, they're going to have to be dealing with clients, suppliers around the world. So coming back to the answer, learn some languages and have fun and travel. Well, the sustainability thing, maybe traveling around the world is not something to recommend right now, but sustainable aviation is coming.
That does a balance with everything, right? Yeah. But I like this answer because, learning code is also like learning a new language.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
And it restructures our brains in different ways. You are a different person slightly in every language that you speak. And again, you can just use AI to translate everything for you. But I think that's definitely one of the ways that students can make the world more approachable to them. Even if they can use their phone to translate, to make an important business deal, you're going to need to have some cultural understanding of the counterparts as well. And the language plays a big part of this. So I think that also sums up, gives an answer to my next question, sort of what advice you'd give to our students in general. But I think learning languages, learning to code is something that some of our students obviously do, especially the ones who want to set up businesses abroad or already do in some ways. I suppose the last question I have, and I'm really happy actually that you're coming to our Newton in Oxford summer school in a couple of weeks again, following the last year's pilot, is can you just tell us a little bit about what we're going to focus on there specifically, what you're going to bring to our students who are coming from Newton to Oxford with us?
Absolutely. And I'm really looking forward to the program. It was great to be part of the pilot last year in the beautiful city of Oxford. From the beautiful city of Prague to the beautiful city of Oxford. You should call it the beautiful city summer school. So we're going to be doing a session on leadership in the age of AI. So in some ways it covers some of the things we've covered in this interview is, how do you use AI as a leader today in a business? So we'll be looking at some of the positive aspects of AI, how it's changing the processes in organizations, in what ways can you use AI most effectively on the supply chain, in the processes like accounting, legal, decision making, the things we've covered earlier. But then also we'll be looking a little bit of on the downside of AI, the threats. What's the impact on the workforce as we discuss what are the dangers, and then some of the threats and ethical issues we'll touch on. How do you protect your organization if you're using AI against those threats? But it's generally going to be focusing on the positive, on how we can use AI in our organizations. And I'll specifically touch a little bit on the aspect of the opportunities for new organizations, in entrepreneurship, how AI can be a fantastic lever. There's a great opportunity, of course, right now to build a business with AI products and services, but there's a tremendous opportunity even for new businesses that don't have an AI product, but they have some traditional product or service where they can actually leverage AI within their organization to actually scale really fast. I'm working on a program that hopefully might turn into a book, which is looking at how you can basically build a unicorn business without raising any cash, but leveraging AI.
Wow. Okay, well, I can't wait.
Okay, watch the space.
Well, thanks so much for today's interview. I will see you in Oxford in a couple of weeks. And thanks again.
Thank you, Anya, and thank you, Newton.